Well, good afternoon, everyone. The H1B Guy here, and today, the H1B Guy live with Mob Squad's head of growth, Graeme Nixon. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel and like this video so that I can continue to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention the H1B Guy offers a variety of consulting services and individuals solve issues in the recruitment process while bringing awareness to employment-based immigrants. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. And you can book an appointment directly with me via the h1bguy.com. Today's live stream is PERM Squad. Are you a technology professional facing U.S. workers? Don't leave your fate up to chance. Mob Squad has a solution. There's perm-ads.com as well as Canada for helping sponsor today's live stream. I'm proud to welcome Nixon here today on 29th, a little after 3 p.m. Eastern. Really kind of what's been a whirlwind of the last few weeks here in the U.S. is the H1B lottery has come up on its conclusion. And, previously I've been joined by Arif Kamani, the president of Mob Squad and COO, as well as Nicole and Jessa. And I also did an interview with Sarab that talked about his experience in relocating to Canada using Mob Squad. So I'm really excited to have Graeme in here today and tell us a little bit about Mob Squad, what his role is with Mob Squad. So Graeme, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing great, Robert. Thanks for having me on here.
Awesome, man. Really glad to have you joining me here today on this live stream. And if you don't mind, maybe take a couple of minutes and introduce the audience to your role at Mob Squad and a little bit about your background and how you came to Mob Squad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello, everyone. I can't see any of you, but lovely to be on the call with you. So I'm Graeme. I am born and raised Canadian. I grew up in Calgary, moved to Vancouver for school, and then moved out to Toronto about 7 years ago, where I currently live here. After my undergrad, I spent 7 years in the wild world of management consulting. So traveled the world helping big businesses solve their most complex problems. And a lot of those problems came down to talent. It came down to how do we work with our people? How do we get the most out of our people and build, a culture that will last through the ages? So that was a really exciting career. But I was getting a little bit restless and trying to think about, how can I have a more personal impact? How can I work for a business that has, fundamentally a social mission baked into it? And so when I met Arif, we started talking about the role at Mob Squad here. It was just a slam dunk in terms of our core, reason to exist is to help people in their times of need. And whether that's, solving a visa or work authorization for someone in the States, or fulfilling the dream of someone who's wanted to move to Canada or North America, but has never been able to, that's what Mob Squad does. And so as the head of growth, right, I really think about my role as two prongs. Number one is to grow our number of engineers and our number of clients, right? The more people that we can bring into Mob Squad, right, the more that we can reinvest into that community. If you imagine that most of our people that we help are coming here without a social network, without a support system, Mob Squad being able to provide that right out of the gate is really critical. The second piece of my role as the head of growth is ensuring the personal and professional growth of everyone on the team. So if you do end up working with us at Mob Squad, in the initial stages is not the last time that you'll hear from me.
So really two different fronts: externally helping support individuals that are relocating to Canada, but also internally kind of investing in employee and retention and growth. So I'd call that growth and strategy, right?
Hey.
So this week, actually on Tuesday, March 27th, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, put out kind of a news alert, if you will, that they had concluded the selection process for the H1B lottery this year. Graeme, I'm hearing a lot of different swirling rumors about a very low selection percentage this year. some of the folks that I work and support, really 1 in 9, 1 in 10 selection rate that I'm hearing about. So really interesting times here. If you are somebody who's maybe tuning in right now and curious and have questions for Graeme, we're going to try to do a Q&A here at the end of the session here if we have some time left. But Graeme, I wanted to really kind of get into, reminding everyone how MobSquad helps foreign technology talent find their next opportunity, specifically in Canada, and really maybe get into kind of what that process looks like, and really what your team does to help those individuals.
Yeah, that's great. So to simplify this, right, and there's obviously more nuance we can talk about. There's basically two solutions that MobSquad offers to individuals. The first is our visa solution, and the second is our global talent search solution. So just give a high-level overview, and then we can go back and forth on more questions. In our visa solution, the way that this works is that you're a person on this call that went to an American university and you obtained a OPT or STEM OPT, or in some cases you have a CPT and you're still in school. You have found an employer, right? Probably in your dream field. You've been working for this opportunity forever. You found an employer, you're doing good work. They like you. You get to this H1B lottery results like today. And Robert, we're hearing the same sort of statistics, about 10% across the board for our network, which is crazy. You get to a situation where, you can't stay in the US, right? And then your current company is unable to support you, right, as an international talent. So you're kind of stuck in this limbo. So our visa solution comes in and does the following. If your company is willing to partner with us, we will give you, the individual, a full-time offer to come join MobSquad in Canada. We will then we'll give you this offer to join MobSquad. Upon signing that, right, we then submit that to the Canadian government, and we can get you your Canadian work permit in as quick as 6 weeks, which is pretty crazy compared to most other immigration.
And that's come down recently, right? Like it was really 8 weeks only a few months ago. So we've seen the processing times increase.
That's right. Yeah. And actually they have a neat live tracker now. And last time I looked at it, the Canadian government, I think it was actually closer to 2 weeks. So it's, it's one of the more efficient programs that we know of globally. So once we get that work permit approved, you basically start the immigration to Canada. You'll land in one of our 4 Canadian cities, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Halifax. From there, we'll help you get set up. And then you will continue to support, your previous U.S. company on a long-term exclusive basis near shore from Canada. So basically, you get to continue your work from Canada, and from there, we put you on a path to permanent residency and citizenship, solving that work authorization issue for good. So that's on the visa front. The other one that we're obviously getting a lot of interest into is what's called our global talent search. So whereas our visa solution really does require you to have a company that would be willing to talk with us and see if they're willing to partner with us to make that work, the global talent solution doesn't require, or global talent search doesn't require you to have that employer. What we basically will do is create a profile for you, right? And then use our existing network with our current companies, with other prospective companies we're talking to, as well as just cool opportunities we're finding in the marketplace. Work with you to land that opportunity, and if that opportunity lands, if that opportunity is extended to you, right, we would just initiate that MobSquad process and begin the move to Canada.
So really one front is what I'd like to call like a job relocation, almost job parking, through PEO in Canada. The other is more of a recruitment strategy, probably a little bit longer term solution, unless there's an opportunity that's an exact match right out of the gate, right? So kind of two different aspects and entities, which is really interesting because it's one is white glove service, right, for employers and individuals. The other, I say, is more white glove service on the candidate side, right?
That's
so
right.
It's a little bit of both. Okay, so let's talk a hypothetical, right? I'm someone who was not selected for this year's H1B lottery, and I want to initiate this discussion with my employer. What's the best approach for me to go about that?
Yeah, that's a great point. So the first thing I would encourage everyone to do is just do a little bit of homework here, right? So one of the things I need to mention on this call is the basically the immigration vehicle in which we're able to get these expedited work permits, expedited permanent residency, and citizenship does depend on you having a job within an approved list of classifications by the Canadian government. So this is called the global talent stream, right? And there's a list of occupations. It's all transparent. It's online.
Which they updated this year as well, I believe.
They did.
We've talked about that kind of at the beginning of the year when I had RF on. They added, I think, 5 or 6 new categories in engineering primarily.
That's right. Yeah, they're still very specifically focused on STEM occupations. So think more around software development, data analysis, database management, website design. That type of stuff has been there for a while. What was added this year were a couple of physical engineering disciplines, so mining engineering, electrical engineering. I think there was one or two others. So to answer your question, Robert, why I'm bringing all of this up is that the first thing we need to do is just determine that you would be eligible, right? Because we don't want to get hopes up, right? If you're not in one of these eligible categories, our hands are unfortunately tied, right? We are working with the government to petition to open up these roles, each year. But we are where we are. So the first thing to do, I think, would be to do a really quick assessment, look at these occupations, look at your current role. If there's a fuzzy match, right? Like you're not seeing that you're just straight up not listed, then the next step would to be reach out to us, right? I think, a lot of the call to actions on this call will be every situation is different. It's really hard to give specific advice to a wide group of people on this topic. So you've done that check. You think there's a reasonable shot that your occupation fits. Go onto our website, fill out our form fill, and then we will work with you to basically confirm, right, that you would be an eligible candidate. We'll make sure that you're super educated on the process, and then we'll talk through of whether, you want to bring this to your employer independently, or if you would like MobSquad to bring it with you. That's a discussion that we have.
Yeah, and I would just ask everyone in the video description, there's links directly to the form fill that you're talking about, Graeme, to please use those. And also on the H1BGuy.com website, absolutely links to get to what I call interested in joining the squad. So you'll see those. So a little bit of an end, and then, submitting in what I'd call a qualification interest form is what I would refer to that as.
Exactly.
So I submit I complete the form. What's the turnaround time from you guys in getting back to me? Is it 24, 48 hours typically, or what should I expect in a turnaround?
Yeah, so we try to be as efficient as possible, right? You could imagine that right now is probably the busiest few weeks for MobSquad within the whole year. But our commitment is that we wouldn't have anything sit in our inbox for longer than 72 hours, right?
Okay.
So one way or another, we're going to get back to you.
So within 3 business days, typically is a kind of a fair assessment.
That's right. And so, and if you find yourself, it's day 4, day 5, you haven't heard back, and it's an urgent situation, just
let me know. I'll poke you, Graeme.
call me, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not because we're ignoring you.
Perfect. That's good to know. Just to help ease some of the angst, right? So $1 million question here. Why, if I'm a high skilled worker, should I decide to work with MobSquad in order to relocate to Canada versus trying to do it on my own, because I know I can do express entry on my own. So what's the benefit for me?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So there's a number of benefits, right? I think on the immigration front, we're a partner that's been there and done this now hundreds of times, right? So we know the nuances of what the government is looking for. We know their timelines, we know their application. And when I talk to our engineers that are on staff, like having that resource, having that, there's someone always making sure that you're doing the right things is really helpful. The other thing too is that the way that Express PR works is that by having an offer from a Canadian company like MobSquad, right, that dramatically improves your score and can kind of push you into a high probability reason there. So there's a tactical reason. The thing that excites me the most, though, is what comes down to like just our community, right? I think, and for most of our folks on the visa solution path, let's be honest here, MobSquad wasn't their first choice, right? It's not like they went out of their way and said, I want to move away from the US that I've worked so hard to get here, right? And so for a lot of these individuals, they're coming here with no support network, no family, maybe not even a friendly face, right? And so right out of the gate, right, we pick you up from the airport. We will help you find a community to settle into. If you have a spouse and they need work, we'll help find work for them. If you have kids and they need like really good private or public school recommendations, we'll do that. We'll help you make sure that they get the right spousal working visa as well as the education visas. It's just that full service package of making sure that you're going to be set up for success in the long term. And then finally, right, on that community is that, from day one, you'll be in an office, right, with other people who are in a very similar situation to you. And so that camaraderie, like right out of the gate, it's a pretty niche community to go and try and find this on your own. And we have it built here essentially.
The fellow mob squatters, as I've heard it referred to as, right?
That's right.
Very cool. Wanted to just take a quick second here, Graeme, and ask everyone, if they haven't already, please make sure to like this video. If you're not subscribed to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime we do go live, like we have here today on March the 29th at a little after 3 p.m. Eastern. I do see it. I think, Venkat, I see your question in the chat. If we have others, Graeme and I are going to carve out some time here at the end of our Q&A to answer any questions you have around the lottery, around the process with MobSquad, and what's the best way to get in touch with Graeme. So we'll definitely be getting to all of those before we close out here today. Yep. So, Graeme, the news here in the U.S., even kind of going back to May of 2022, really we saw the wave start August, September, October, and it's just kind of continued. Wave meaning the wave of tech layoffs that we've experienced here in the U.S. and a lot of the large big tech, but hasn't just been big tech, e-com. I mean, really a lot of different verticals, industry verticals, and more recently, kind of the shock and concern over some of the financial crises that have been going on. It really has just kind of dominated the news cycle here when we look at jobs and layoff conversation really over the last 6 months, particularly. So how has that impacted MobSquad services and really just hiring in totality in Canada?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Robert. So, it's a tough market out there, right? I don't think we need to sugarcoat it, and everyone has some experience with it, either directly or indirectly, as of now. Personally speaking, my fiance was caught up in some of these layoffs as well. So it's pervasive, right? MobSquad being a talent company in the technology space, serving exclusively U.S. clients, we're not totally immune from this, right? What I will confidently say, though, is that we have weathered far better than I think expected, especially against some other comparable companies. But the biggest implication for us, and I think for viewers on your call, Robert, is that second solution of ours, the global talent search, right? It's just slowed down a lot, right? We are still working on this. We are still trying to find those opportunities because, this downturn is impacting everyone like quite unevenly, right? There are still some really high growth, super scale ups that are still staffing. They're just fewer and farther between. And then the other side of this is that even if you do find a relevant role, the competitiveness is just through the roof, right? Because you are now
more talent available, right?
Exactly, right. So it's I think it is tough. I can't sugarcoat it. I will say that I'm always optimistic, right? About the pendulum always swings back to the other side. And we just had a few, unconstrained years of tech service success. So I think that's a little bit of the natural order of things. So all to say that we are still continuing to accept applications for the global talents, the global talent search. If that's something that's of interest to you, I just want to be frank and transparent that our timelines are just longer than they have.
Yeah, the expectation in a candidate search is, I think, really extended. And when we're talking about, hey, maybe I only have 60 days left in the US, we need to be aware of like how quickly something could move as a candidate versus the employer relocation, right?
Exactly.
I think that's the really the key here. I know there's opportunity to be had. There are companies that are hiring. Unemployment still remains very low here from a tech perspective in the US, and I know it does in Canada as well. But I think the reality check is, the news is the news. The layoffs are the layoffs. Opportunity still exists, but it may not exist at the speed that you need it to.
Yeah.
So the sooner that you can get into the database and build a relationship with a recruiter at MobSquad and make them aware of your skill set, the probability of them at a future date having something that may fit your body of work, in the months to come is more highly likely as these things kind of quiet down a little bit. I think is really what I'm hearing from you. So good point. And I think good to make everyone aware, right? So that also kind of leads me into trends. Canada's had what I call high skilled immigrant target growth over the last couple of years. What are some in hearing about what maybe the next 3 to 9 months, maybe, into the summer and then really kind of through the end of the year? What are you seeing and hearing and expecting for the rest of 2023?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't have any crystal ball here, but if I just kind of take the question, over the summer, I still think, and hearing from our clients, there's just a great deal of uncertainty, right? We do think that it's going to start to level out, right? Companies are going to know where they're at financially. Their baselines are going to reset, and we do think that stability will return. But I think over the next few months, especially, there's just going to be a lot of anxiety, right? And not anyone having a lot of clear answers. So that's one big thing. The other thing that will just continue, though, is Canada's aggressive, move towards high-skilled immigration. So in 2022, Canada welcomed over 1 million. Its population grew by 1 million, right? Most of that driven by immigration for the first time ever, right?
Wow.
Canada is not a very big country, about 39 million people now. So that was really significant. And we're still on track to welcome 500,000 immigrants per year by 2025. It was 400,000 last year. So I think, that's not going to slow down. Canadians are overwhelmingly, I think the last that I saw was 76% had a very favorable view of immigration. So that will continue. I think the third thing that's interesting that we're hearing from clients as well is, number one, just more openness towards having some of their talent support them in Canada, right? I think the remote work boom that was proven by the pandemic has moved a lot of companies to permanently hybrid, even permanently remote. And that's just really opened their minds in terms of this model. The second thing that we're getting a lot of interest from is clients that are looking to near shore their offshore people. Right. So if they've got a team that are working, outside of North America, they've had difficulties bringing them to the States. We're seeing openness of, parking those people, a little bit closer geographically and time zone wise. So I think those are the kind of the big things I see from an immigration talent perspective. Another big unknown just for the sector at all, and I don't have a strong perspective, but I think it's interesting to think about, is the impact of all this generative AI, right? And some other products are coming out because, and what is that going to do to the future talent pools and the future talent needs of our clients? I don't think anyone's really kind of cracked that code yet.
No, I saw a post on LinkedIn earlier that said seeking AI whisperers, 325,000 per year. I thought that was it stopped and grabbed my attention. That's for sure. I can't lie to you about that. No, good points. I think you've seen a very aggressive immigration strategy that's been in place in Canada for many years. GTS with a combination of express entry, as kind of the post-COVID emergence has happened. Really, you've seen those numbers double and triple in terms of overall immigration in the last couple of years. It's been a very interesting trend to see. And not just that, but the attraction of more international students to advanced, well, even undergrad, but advanced Canadian degrees as well, is going to have more of an impact at a future date that we're not really seeing right now. So it's a really interesting trend. Wanted to see if you maybe had a recent success story that you could share with everybody. Anybody come to mind where maybe in the last few months we're kind of caught in limbo, or
we've got lots of this going on at lots of this going. Just trying to think of the good story to share. I think one of my favorites, right? And it wasn't super recent, but this is when I actually just joined MobSquad, 4 or 5 months ago. So I'm still learning here every day too.
Yep.
And one of the things that really sold me, right, that knew that, hey, this is real and the impact is that we had an engineer that had just a 1-year extension on their OPT, and they thought they had a really good chance at it, so they didn't really worry about it, and had no plan B going into it. And so when she found out, right, that she wasn't eligible for the lottery, so this is this around this time last year, she was understandably freaked out, right, because she had done no planning into this, and so was frantically Googling visa help, visa, how do I stay in the US? She somehow stumbled upon us, and a long story short, from the moment we were introduced to her landing in Canada, right, was about a 30 to 45 day process.
Wow. Less than 60 days it's crazy. That's what I would call expedited for sure. No, that's a good story. And it's good for people to know about that, right? We're not just saying 6 weeks. 6 weeks is realistic. It's a real tangible number. And that's a huge selling point. So wanted to just kind of make sure everyone knows, as I mentioned before, if you're interested in finding out if you qualified, there is a link in the video description below. Please be sure to use that URL. I've also, Graeme shares your LinkedIn profile in the video description below. So for those of you who want to connect with Graeme, please feel free to shoot him a LinkedIn connection as well. I do see there are a couple questions in the chat. I think that's probably going to give us 3 or 4 minutes. If there are any other questions, definitely want to take those right now, while Graeme and I have about 5 minutes to kind of go through the Q&A. So I'm just going to pull up the questions here, Graeme. We'll just we'll hammer these out. I'll take this lottery question to start out with. So Venkat, this answer is currently not known, but I've seen a lot of rumors stating that there is expected 1 million. But the thing that really stands out to me is what I would call unique registrations, Graeme. I'm hearing that it was only about 200,000 unique registrations. So that tells me that individuals are averaging 2.5 registrations per person. Pretty incredible if you think about that, and what the electronic registration portal, very low barrier to entry from a $10 fee has created. Yes, the fee is going up next year, but right now we're talking literally over 500,000 registrations is being speculated. Back in February, I had Sophie Alcorn on, Graeme. She's a U.S. immigration attorney, and I speculated over 400,000. She said 375. Looking like both of us are going to be way off, and the number is going to be much higher. So pretty interesting. Gerard asks, does MobSquad charge any fees for their services, Graeme?
Yeah, great question. So there's no direct fee to you as the person that they're working with. How it works, right, is that you will sign an employment agreement with MobSquad, right, which will contain your salary, your benefits, the relocation package, all of that good stuff. And then with our now client, we would have a client agreement, right, which would have a fee that would cover all of that, plus our immigration expenses. So for you, the individual, there's no direct costs. There may be, right, and this is all situational, there is going to be an adjustment on the salary, right? The basic thinking is that you wouldn't expect a software developer in a major US city, right, to be making the exact same if they move to a smaller city, right? So it's the same sort of logic. But, right, we always commit to paying within the top quartile, if not decile, for ranges. So no direct cost, but there may be, right, depending on how
some salary differential that could occur. And the employer, when we're talking about the visa situation, or what you gave as example one, right, of the two different service offerings, the employer bears the costs, right? And then there's a client services agreement that's in place. And they also, there's a payment of your compensation, right? That happens. It's just how the arrangement works. So it's good to make your employer aware of. They really will see no change. It's just you're a MobSquad employee working in Canada. So yeah, no charge to the services. And then on the candidate recruitment side, no fees as well.
That's right.
If there's an opportunity that you're placed at one of MobSquad's clients, then they'll help facilitate that. But there is no charge to you, Gerard. Good question, though.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's no, if you're worried that, it'll cost money to even just talk to us, not the case.
So here we go. Here's kind of what we'd call your classic scenario, Graeme. There's two kind of statements here, and I'm going to let you take this. I'm a student on status with CPT work permission in IT. My employer in Chicago applied for H1B, unfortunately was not selected. Can MobSquad help her with her current company, or are her chances better in relocating to Canada? So like for Thiago here, what's the best way for her to go about, or for them to go about identifying if they do qualify, and how to initiate this conversation with the employer?
Yeah, that's right. So, I think the advice here is let's do both, right? So if you take a few minutes, Google, Canada Global Talent Stream Occupations, take a look at that, take a look at your role in IT. And if there's that fuzzy match, I would encourage you then to go get in touch with us. So go to mobsquad.io, you have the link, fill out the form. What we will do, right, is get to know you a little bit better. See if your current company would be willing to work with us, right? So have that discussion with them. If we get to the end of that discussion and it's a hard no, right, for whatever reason, then we can just, if you're still interested in moving to Canada, we then would put you in our global talent pool at that point.
Perfect. So best to consider both options here in this situation, Thiago, is what I'm hearing from Graeme.
Yes.
Well, Graeme, that was great stuff, man. Really appreciate you jumping in here with me today, March 29th, a little after 3 p.m. I know we've gone a couple minutes longer than our sort of 30-minute allotment, but wanted to make sure we got through the Q&A. Remind everyone who may be watching this now or consuming this at a later date, next Thursday, April the 6th, I'll be putting out the H1B Guy interviews with Mary Grace, who will share her MobSquad story in relocating to Canada. Great conversation. She is a brilliant young lady and has a lot of great things to say about MobSquad and the services. So check that out on Thursday, April the 6th. Graeme's LinkedIn profile is in the video description below. Also, the URLs to check out, the MobSquad forum if you want to go in and register and have someone from MobSquad reach out to you. As Graeme said, probably in the next, give them a 72-hour time frame to get back to you. So, Graeme, thanks so much, man. I'm going to go ahead and close this out here today and just remind everyone that today's live stream was brought to you by MobSquad. If you are a technology professional facing U.S. work visa-related challenges, do not leave your fate up to chance. There is going to be no second lottery, so take matters into your own hands. MobSquad has multiple solutions, as you heard about. They help technology professionals that are facing U.S. work visa-related uncertainty remain working with their current U.S. company nearshore from Canada, as well as technology professionals from around the world who are seeking an opportunity to find a rewarding career in North America. Through their partnership with the Canadian government, they can obtain a Canadian work permit for you and your spouse in as little as 6 weeks. So whether you're looking to stay working with your current U.S. company or you want to find a new opportunity in Canada, please find out how the team at MobSquad can help you via the link in the video description below. Join the squad. And also would like to thank our other sponsors, PERM-ads.com, the industry leader in providing a seamless experience for employers and immigration attorneys navigating the complex PERM recruitment ad phase of the labor certification process. And also by Syndesus and Path of Canada. They provide an ideal plan B for high-skilled immigrants currently located in the U.S. whose status may be uncertain. So, Graeme, one last thank you, man. Really appreciate you joining me here this afternoon. We did have one quick question come in. I will get with you on that, and we can follow up later.
Yeah.
But just wanted to ask you again, if you haven't already, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications. Graeme, you had one last thing you wanted to say?
Oh, I just answered that question really quickly. Doesn't matter where you are when you apply. You can be in the US, you could be in Brazil, you could be in Europe.
Yep. So location doesn't matter. As we said, technology professionals from around the world who are seeking to find a rewarding opportunity in North America, right? That's the key and a great answer. So, for Graeme, thanks again. H1B Guy, your global source for all things